Stop with the questions. Celebrate.
And then they say, is Donald Trump an intellectual? Trust me, I'm like a smart person. Yosemite's one of the wettest we've ever seen from the standpoint of water.
Mike Lindell's a conspiracy.
Well, you haven't. Person, woman, man, camera, TV. They said nobody gets it in order. It's actually not that easy, but for me it was easy.
Amazing.
He can't sit down. He's got a burning in his butthole. He's got a fire. He's got a flame coming out of his butthole.
Big, massive dumps.
Oh, I have a term for that. I call it corporate communism.
Somebody sent me a thing this morning where they're talking about putting the vaccine into salad dressing.
You see, this is a simple meme that you would find on the internet, but this meme is very real.
You ain't seen nothing yet until you see the flaming butthole.
Putting us on our knees to China.
Now witness the firepower of this fully armed and operational battle station.
Mike Pounds.
Around the nation, Waldorf Nation, everybody, welcome to the show. It's me. It's a good day. It's Monday. It's Monday. All right, so fun. Hopefully everybody had a fantastic weekend. We're back. We got a great show for y'all today, including some of the stuff that kind of missed from Friday. But it's fun stuff. It's fun stuff. Ted Cruz. I just have to talk about Ted Cruz getting unmanned because it's so much fun whenever it happens. You must be into that. I don't know. We're going to talk about that. Fun times. We also have forged documents. They got the documents. Interesting. What am I talking about? Well, it goes to the conspiracy to try to steal an election, of course. Jim Jordan, not a fan of committees. Unless he's on them, unless it's Benghazi. I'll explain that. And if we have time, we have Texas, private schools in Texas, up to being Texas. So they're Texas. Let's just say that. All right. So anyway, fun times. Should be interesting. So if you haven't already, please like and share the stream. Very important that you do so. Helps us out as always. I just want to give a shout out, of course, to basically somebody who just passed. Rest in peace, Bob Saget. And so, like, those of us in my generation and older, we remember Bob Saget as not only Danny Tanner from Full House, of course, but also America's Funniest Home Videos. Before YouTube, that's where you got your cat videos and your funny videos. Yeah, so that was a thing. People would literally take homemade tapes and they would send them to that show, and then you would watch it for what was it, like an hour? What was it, like a half hour? Something like that. And so I don't remember how long it was, but that's where you'd get your videos before the internet. And I know you had the internet kind of back then, but that's where you'd watch your videos. Crazy, isn't it crazy? How, I don't know, like it really ages me. Hour long. Oh, it was an hour of videos. Okay, yeah. Again, this was a long time ago. It really ages me. It really ages me. And then, of course, the realization that when, because you think of him as like, oh, is he America's Funniest Home Videos guy? He's kind of cheesy, but then you look at Danny Tanner, he's family friendly. And then you hear him tell a whole bunch of raunchy ass jokes. And of course, the scene in Half Baked, which he's known as, that I remember seeing, where he was like, a recovering addict, essentially. You ever sucked it for coke? I have. I was like, oh my God. Jesus Christ, I've never heard. That's Danny freaking Tanner. I know he wasn't playing that character, but still. I don't know. You realize he's actually, he was a raunchy comic. So it is kind of interesting when you find out, hey, it turns out they're actors. I know. Actors and comedians. Who knew? But anyway, yeah. Rest in peace. That's all I got to say. Rest in peace, Bob Saget. Will be missed around the comedic scene. So, yeah. All right. So yeah, we are... we are just seeing a lot of people pass, and 2016. Or I'm sorry, since 2016, I guess. But 2022 just started, and everybody's already people is already dying. So it's crazy stuff. But anyway, yeah. All right. Anyway. Let's go into the show. Let's start out with more funny stuff. Ted Cruz. Let's watch Ted Cruz get just unmanned in the best way. All right. Lots of big stars are in their 80s and 90s. Yeah, that's true. It's very true. Where's the time go? All right. Conservatives were not happy with Ted Cruz's statements on the anniversary of the January 6th Capitol riots. Now, he, of course, referred to this attack on the Capitol as an act of domestic terrorism, which he would actually be correct. Nonetheless, after massive conservative backlash from Tucker Carlson, Ted Cruz decided to go on his program and essentially beg and grovel like a sad baby. Watch.
You called this a terror attack when by no definition was it a terror attack. That's a lie. You told that lie on purpose, and I'm wondering why you did.
It was sloppy, and it was frankly dumb. And
I don't buy that. Whoa. I don't buy that. Look, I've known you a long time, since before you went to the Senate. You were a Supreme Court contender. You take words as seriously as any man who's ever served in the Senate. And every word, you repeated that phrase. I do not believe that you used that accidentally. I just don't.
So, Tucker, as a result of my sloppy phrasing, it's caused a lot of people to misunderstand what I meant. Let me tell you what I meant to say. I wasn't saying the millions of patriots across the country supporting President Trump are terrorists, and that's what a lot of people have misunderstood that comment.
Wait a second, but hold on. What you just said doesn't make sense. So if somebody assaults a cop, he should be charged and go to jail. I couldn't agree more. We've said that for years. But that person's still not a terrorist. How many people have been charged with terrorism on January 6th?
I agree with you. It was a mistake to say that yesterday. I get why people were angry.
I guess I just don't believe you. And I mean that with respect, because I have such respect for your acuity and your precision. And I've seen it on display. I've covered you as a reporter. I know how you speak. And you have sat there for a year and watched people use language to distort the events of that day. Intentionally. Insurrection. Coup.
Of course it
terrorism.
Wasn't an insurrection. Saying it's an insurrection is a political term. It's a lie. I've repeatedly denounced it. And when it comes to, look, I was focusing on what I normally say. What you aired was a little 15-second snippet. What I normally say is violence is wrong, peaceful protest is right. If you engage in violence, you should be prosecuted. If you're speaking, you have a right to speak. I say that all the time.
Well, I agree.
In that snippet. Of course, it would be ridiculous for me to be saying that the people standing up and protesting to follow the law were somehow terrorists. I was talking about people who commit violence against cops, and you and I both agree, if you commit violence against cops, you should go to jail.
Yeah, but you're not a terrorist. You know, you're not. You're a guy who assaulted a cop. Okay, so there's a legal difference, as you well know better than I do, since you were actually in the running for the Supreme Court, and there's a moral difference between a guy.
But Tucker, the reason I use.
All right. God, that's sad. Oh, that's sad. And Tucker Carlson's like, no, I don't believe you. How dare you call these people terrorists? Like, I didn't. No. If you attack cops, well, then maybe. But then the people that were standing up, those were not terrorists. What is it, Ted? Which one? Which one was it, Ted? I mean, it's so sad. It's so sad. I'm not sure. I mean, if I've ever seen anything sadder. Well, okay, let me just take that back for a second, because again, the phone banking for Donald Trump was super sad. Especially after Donald Trump had called his wife ugly and said that his dad had killed JFK. I'm serious. But look, here's the thing. Ted Cruz, it's like he can't help himself. He's got to love being humiliated in public. I don't know. But it is incredibly sad and pathetic. And I remember saying, I was like, well, what's the point? He's just gonna get absolutely destroyed. And of course, that's exactly what happened. Who knew? So now, look, let's kind of point out, though, that Ted Cruz was originally correct in calling the people in the Capitol riots domestic terrorists. In fact, look, and here's the thing, right? So you heard the part in the video where Tucker's like, well, nobody got charged with domestic terrorism. Well, there's a reason for that. Let me explain. Current law, that's federal law, defines domestic terrorism as criminal acts in the United States that are dangerous to human life, that appear intended to intimidate or coerce a civilian population, to influence government policy by intimidation or coercion, or to affect the conduct of a government by mass destruction, assassination, or kidnapping. Now, I don't need to remind you that some of the people that were trying to get that had gotten into the Capitol, if they had gotten their hands on a congressperson, which they were trying to do, well, some of them, of course, had ways to try to restrain such persons. They were chanting, "Hang Mike Pence." Okay. And then, thankfully they did not get their hands on any member of Congress, but they did destroy property. They destroyed windows, doors, barricades, literally shit on the floors, smeared it around. And so you look at it, by that definition, that's terrorism. It is. But then to address the question, well, if it's terrorism, how come nobody's being charged with terrorism? Because it turns out, in the United States, there is a loophole. Under U.S. law, there's actually no criminal penalties attached to that statute. So even if you do something that fits the definition of domestic terrorism, you're not going to be charged with domestic terrorism. Now, the only way that you would be actually charged with domestic terrorism is if they can prove that there is a link to a foreign government. Or, for example, if you're a Muslim, and they can say, oh, well, you're working with ISIS or a terror group, and not just a government, but also a terror group like ISIS or Al-Qaeda. If they can prove that you have links or suggest that you have links, then you can be arrested for domestic terrorism. But if you're a white nationalist, you're a white supremacist, or whatever, then no, you're not able to be arrested for or charged with domestic terrorism. So you see how that works. So now again, if you did, if somebody did something like January 6th or something else, but were connected with ISIS or something to do with Islam, then you're going to be labeled a domestic terrorist. That's how this law works. Now, in the case of the Capitol rioters, the FBI is relying on other criminal statutes, such as those dealing with murder or assault, to charge defendants. And so that's what's going on here. So now there's another wrinkle to this, because there's actually a really big conversation going on in the Capitol about changing the domestic terrorism laws. So that there are civil rights groups that are saying, actually, no, we probably shouldn't expand domestic terrorism laws, because that can cause some issues with, citizens, for example, due process, etc. In fact, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is actually against this. Here's what she said, quote, "Our problems on Wednesday, or January 6th, weren't that there weren't enough laws, resources, or intelligence. We had them, and they were not used." This was, again, in response to calls for enactment of a new domestic terrorism law. Now, Tucker Carlson, the thing that Tucker Carlson is doing is that he knows this. He's not a dumb person. He really isn't. No, he knows what he's doing. And so what he's doing is he's basically intentionally using the fact that we don't have criminal statutes for this kind of domestic terrorism, for perhaps good reason. And that is arguable, because, again, if you think about it this way, that's a lot of power in the hands of the government. Now, that could be very dangerous if you put it in the wrong hands. And, for example, you can look at the drone program, right? And just think about it, right? The drone program has killed American citizens overseas in charges of terrorism. And so that's without due process. So now, imagine that power in the hands domestically for people that are inside the United States that are not linked with any terror group, but have beat up cops or police or whatever, or done whatever action the government might not be in favor of. Maybe like protest pipelines. Well, now you're talking like, oh, those people could be labeled domestic terrorists because they have an agenda, a political agenda, and they possibly could be putting people in harm's way. So again, there's a little bit of a slippery slope here that is to be careful of, especially when you consider it being in the hands of the establishment, the corporate establishment, or Republicans, which might be even worse. So yeah. Now, here's the thing. So what they're doing here, Tucker Carlson is using that definition to downplay what happened on January 6th, which it is actually incredibly, disturbing what happened. So now Ted Cruz, he knows Ted Cruz is correct, but his audience, and he has fed this idea to the audience that it's only Muslims that can be terrorists. And so, look, this is basically the Family Guy meme, where he holds up the color chart. Okay is white, not okay is brown. And that's it. And that's their terrorism chart at this point, even though they've done the same thing. Okay? So they're literally living a meme. Now, another point here that I think is important to point out is that this is a case of political correctness. So now, factually, again, according to their own, the FBI's own definition of terrorism, these people on January 6th did a terrorism. Now, calling it a terrorism, however, for the right, is not politically correct. It is factually correct, but not politically correct. And so here's the thing, too. They would use this if there were new domestic terrorism laws that were passed. You don't think that Republicans would use it against BLM and Antifa? Of course they would. Absolutely. Absolutely. They would use that definition against them. In fact, they already do. Ted Cruz is like, oh, yeah, no, they're terrorists. Those people are terrorists. But the January 6th people, no, they're not terrorists. Unless you're beating up on cops, which, a lot of the people in January 6th were, but they're not terrorists, though. They're not terrorists. They're rioters. That's what they are. Not insurrectionists, no. But they're rioters, sure. And so understand that this is like a big exercise in political correctness. And that's what it is. And so the real crime of Ted Cruz and why he got obliterated by Tucker Carlson there is the fact that he, for a moment, was not politically correct. And he failed to realize how politically correct the right wing under Tucker Carlson has become. And that's why he went groveling to Tucker Carlson. So, but Antifa isn't a thing. Yeah, but we know, like, that's the thing. There's no centralized, like, there's no secret Antifa headquarters. You know what I'm saying? But, like, the right wing thinks, oh, no, there is, and they're working together with BLM, and they're working together with the Iranians and Chinese and all that. Again, they think some really weird stuff. But yeah, you're right, though, when you say, like, yeah, Antifa isn't a thing. I know. Try to tell them that. All right, anyway, let's move on. Go to some forged documents. All right. The House Select Committee on January 6th has found some interesting documents showing how the right, some on the right, intended to seal the 2020 election and how they were going to do it. Now, among the thousands of documents obtained, including records from state officials, investigators found forged certificates declaring Donald Trump the winner in states like Arizona, Michigan, and others. 4 states total. So now, wait, that actually didn't happen. There was no Trump victory in 2020 in Michigan and Arizona. So now, this is according to interviews conducted involving numerous witnesses, including the Democratic secretaries of state in both Michigan and Arizona. So now in Arizona, it's actually more interesting because what happened is that that this pro-Trump group was using the official Arizona seal in these documents to try to show that, oh no, this is a legitimate document that shows that Donald Trump had actually won the election here. When again, that wasn't the case. In Michigan, they tried a similar thing, but actually didn't use the official state seal. So now, a spokesperson for the Arizona Secretary of State, Katie Hobbs, said that in an interview, they mostly discussed the election administration in Arizona, the 2020 elections, threats and harassment directed towards her office, and the Cyber Ninjas partisan ballot review. Now, Arizona had taken legal action against one of the pro-Trump Sovereign Citizens group, whose leader met with Rudy Giuliani in December 2020, by sending a cease and desist letter ordering them to stop using the state seal and referred the matter to the state attorney general. Hobbs wrote to one of the pro-Trump groups, quote, "By affixing the state seal to documents containing false and misleading information about the results of the Arizona's November 3rd, 2020 general election, you undermine the confidence in our democratic institutions." So this group, again, I believe that this group was part of a propaganda campaign. So you create fake documents, in the case of Arizona, with an official seal, and present that as proof that Trump was the winner of the election. Oh, no, see, we have the documents right here. The state official documents that were hidden by the deep state. Obviously, the deep state or FBI or whatever fictional entity you want to put in there, or whoever you want to blame, insert here. And just say, well, this proves that the election was stolen by Joe Biden and the Democrats. Obviously. So now here's the thing. I believe this coincides with the plan that Steve Bannon and Peter Navarro had dreamed up and shared with Donald Trump and others with their orbit. Okay? Now that called on propaganda showing that Trump had won, right? So they were going to go and they were going to do this 24-hour propaganda-thon after Mike Pence would refuse to certify the election. And of course, these 100 congressmen would also go back to their states. All of this were to be happening at the same time, that they were going to be doing audits and recounts. And this propaganda campaign would purport to show that, oh no, there was massive voter fraud and all this stuff that went on in the election and not secure, these states that are breaking their voting rules, and then the whole thing's a mess, and we should just, Donald Trump actually won the election, and we should just go with it and just let him steal it. Now, obviously, of course, Mike Pence didn't play that part. He did certify the election. Most congressmen ended up certifying. The states had certified. They didn't send their electors back and switch them out with them who were the ones who were going to vote for Trump. And so none of that happened. But I think this was part of that propaganda campaign. And so this was a part of, well, oh, look, we've got documentation here. And to convince people like, oh, well, if they've got documentation, I guess what are you going to do? I guess Trump won, right? And so, part of that too is to say that it's official, but it was hidden by the state. And it was hidden by the people who hated Donald Trump, like Democrats. Yeah, it's hidden by them. But again, this all hinged on Mike Pence. So, and again, thankfully that didn't happen. Now, that's not my speculation, of course, this entire situation. But again, that was their plan. That was openly admitted by Peter Navarro in his memoir. Now, the speculation is how these documents fit in. But again, the scenario that I laid out is eminently possible. But the existence of these documents also suggested to me that this was much more sophisticated as part of a plan to steal the 2020 election. You have other evidence as well that was shared here, and that's text messages. Yeah, text messages. Now, these were sent by Chief of Staff Mark Meadows that were attempts to pressure the secretaries of state in these 4 different states to overturn the election. Now, these are, again, states that were battleground states, very key states that Trump wanted to flip. Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and others, right? Arizona, of course, Georgia. Georgia actually is the one here. In fact, you had Mark Meadows sending this text to Brad Raffensperger. So that's the Georgia Secretary of State. Mr. Secretary, Mark Meadows here. If you could give me a brief call at your convenience, thank you. Meadows then texted Raffensperger a second time on the morning of December 5th. The first one was on November 19th, 2020, saying, you should call the White House switchboard to set up a call. Your voicemail is full. Now, there's more. A previously unreported email from one of Raffensperger's top aides, Jordan Fuchs, was also turned over to the committee. In it, Fuchs had responded to Meadows' December 22nd, 2020 trip to Georgia's Cobb County during the state's signature match audit. He emailed Meadows to clarify a few items about the rejection rate of absentee ballots, something that Trump and his allies had alleged was much lower than normal. So they're like, no, you're not rejecting enough ballots. You got to reject more ballots. In fact, you need to reject a specific number of ballots. Any guess on how many that would be? Well, enough ballots to make sure that he wins. And so now, Fuchs also included the text of a press release sent out by the Secretary of State's office a month beforehand with a more thorough explanation of how the state's office evaluated absentee ballots. So that's them. Now, you also had Lindsey Graham. Now, this is a little bit more damning. Now, Lindsey Graham, whose emails were included in the document dump, the big massive dumps. Now, that's between Lindsey Graham and Raffensperger's offices. That shows how a call previously reported between the two officials came about roughly 2 weeks after the 2020 election. Hope you're doing well, Senator Graham has requested a call with Secretary Raffensperger at his earliest convenience. A Graham staffer told two of the Raffensperger's top aides on November 12, 2020. The call between the two men ended with Graham indicating to Raffensperger that some ballots should be tossed out, the Georgia official said later. So toss the ballots. I don't care. I don't care for what reason. That was signature match, which we all, of course, I've talked about that before, how that's like basically ignores how people's signatures can change over time. And so, oh, your signature's off just a little bit? Toss it, toss it, toss it. Interesting. I guess your signature wasn't 100% exact as it was last year or the last time that you might have voted. I guess we just have to get rid of it. Your ballot no longer counts. Toss it, toss it, toss it. And here's Lindsey Graham saying, let's toss a lot of them. Gee, I wonder who that would benefit. And by the way, it wasn't just Biden ballots that are subject to signature match, it's all ballots. So they also might have disenfranchised Trump supporters as well. Interesting. But again, they don't care. Now, finally, the state had also turned over a previously reported audio recording between Trump and Francis Watson. So now this was happened on December 23rd, 2020. So now Watson is the chief investigator for the Georgia Secretary of State's office. The brief call between Watson and an unidentified staffer. Now, in the December 23rd call, Trump had urged Watson to find, quote unquote, dishonesty in the state's election results. So that's Donald Trump directly asking for, oh, we got to find dishonesty in our election. Dishonesty. Now, of course, anything that suggests that the Republicans, in this case, Donald Trump, had lost. Now, again, they don't mention any of the elections where Republicans had won. No, just the one, the presidential race, that he lost. Or to them, of course, allegedly lost, right? So understand that this is part of that gigantic pressure campaign. Again, Mark Meadows, Lindsey Graham, Jim Jordan as well, Donald Trump, a lot of these Republicans going in and pressuring, trying to pressure the states to change the outcome of the election. And that's what's going on here. And so, and by the way, that's what we know so far. Now, the full scope of the findings are not public knowledge. But again, here we have the pressure, the campaign, the propaganda to try to overturn an election, to steal an election for Republicans. And that's a fact. The very thing that they've been accusing the Democrats of doing, they themselves have actively done. So it's pure rejection. Understand that the Republican Party does not believe in any democracy at all. And that's unfortunately what we're faced with right now. You have a party that has completely rejected our form of government, a representative form of government, and is now trying to use absolutely just dirty tricks and pressure campaigns and propaganda to try to undermine representative democracy. Because they can't win any other way. All right. Let's go to Alex Jones. Actually, you know what? Before we go to Alex Jones, let's go to Jim Jordan, actually. So let's do that. Since it's kind of the same thing. Staying consistent here on topics. All right. Let's see. All right, hold on a second. I think I have my images not set up right. But anyway, we'll get to that. We'll figure it out. Do it live. We'll do it live. All right.
We'll do it live.
Representative Jim Jordan is not going to cooperate into the investigation into January 6th. So in a letter to the committee chairman, Representative Benny Thompson, Jordan basically talked about how the probe is nothing more than a obsession. It's a Democratic obsession. Well, to be fair, I would be a little obsessed as well. If they tried to completely undermine our system of government and push us into fascism. But hey, that's just me. I guess I'm just suffering from, TDS. Yeah, Trump derangement, January 6th derangement, whatever, right? Just creeping fascism. But all right, sure. Here's what he said, by the way. The American people are tired of Democrats' nonstop investigations and partisan witch hunts. Adding the committee's request, unfortunately, continues this Democratic obsession. This request is far outside the bounds of any legitimate inquiry, violates core constitutional principles, and would serve to further erode legislative norms. All right, so now here's the thing. Now, are the American people sick of investigations? Actually, no. It turns out a majority of the American people actually approve of the January 6th committee and of the investigations. Even a lot of Republicans actually agree with looking into what's going on. That said, okay, if you want to make a point like, okay, but the Democrats are ignoring other priorities, like, for example, COVID testing and inflation, that's a fair criticism. Yes, you can walk and chew gum at the same time. Yes, of course. And you can do the messaging. For example, you can start to push for voting rights. I wish the Democrats would do that. Push for things like, I don't know, more COVID relief, maybe more COVID stimulus during the Omicron, the surge that we're happening. Maybe a push to try to do reconciliation when it comes to the Build Back Better. But hey, all right, that's fair criticism. What's unfair criticism is Jim Jordan going on and saying, I can't believe they're doing a Democrat witch hunt. This is the guy that did Benghazi. We'll talk about that in a minute. So now, the other thing that the committee is looking at is basically they're looking to ask him what he sat down and talked with Donald Trump about that was related, or could be related to January 6th. So now, Jim Jordan says, well, yeah, of course, yeah, I talked to Donald Trump, of course, yeah. But we didn't talk about anything related to the election. Oh, really? Okay, well, look, hey, if you didn't talk about anything, well, then just come in and cooperate. Well, that's it. Let's get your side of the story. Instead, you're like, no, I am not. I refuse. Now, of course, that's probably going to get him brownie points on the right. Because for them, it's about, well, if I refuse to testify, if I refuse to work with the committee, well, that just makes my base happy, and then I get more campaign donations. I don't know. But this next quote might be a bit telling. He said that even if he did have pertinent information, he said the panel is just not conducting a fair-minded and objective inquiry. So, I'm just not going to talk to them. Oh, okay. Well, I just don't think it's fair, so I'm just not going to talk to them at all. Great. Imagine if Democrats did that during, I don't know, another investigation committee, select committee. I don't know, like about Benghazi, perhaps? Interesting. Now, does anybody remember that? Remember the 11-hour marathon hearings where Republicans and Jim Jordan were pretty much lobbing everything at Democrats, yes, including Hillary Clinton, to try to tie Obama and her to Benghazi, which, by the way, Benghazi, was that terrible? Of course. Yeah, there was a loss of life during Benghazi. Now, of course, the Obama administration had been cleared of any wrongdoing in that, specific incident. But more people actually died during January 6th. Oh, but no, the January 6th hearing, well, that's a Democrat witch hunt. But Benghazi was totally legit. 100% legit. Oh, yes. There were 33 different hearings over 2 years. You want to talk about a witch hunt? That's a witch hunt. Now, Jim Jordan, of course, supported that witch hunt. And by the way, related to January 6th, okay, here's what Jim Jordan was saying. He was saying, and this was before the election, Democrats are trying to steal the election. Okay? On January 5th, he blamed Trump's loss on voter fraud and warned that 60 million Americans think that the election was stolen. Now, Jim Jordan did talk at a House hearing on January 12th, 2021. So that's 7 days after he said, oh no, there was fraud, the election was stolen because of fraud, and 60 million Americans think that the election was stolen. Yet here's what he said.
And I've never said, as the chairman indicated earlier, I've never said that this election was stolen. What I've said very clearly is half the electorate, both Republicans and Democrats, have concerns, and we call for an investigation.
Mr. Jordan.
You're kind of saying the same thing, buddy. I mean, I'm not saying that it was stolen. I'm just saying that there's all sorts of fraud, and that a lot of people think that the election was stolen, but not me. Even though I have bought into every single conspiracy theory on the election being stolen, including the big lie, like voter fraud and all that. Oh, okay, really? All right. So now let's do some more. Let's do some tweets. All right, let's do some tweets. Let's see what he's saying about this. All right, let's hold on there. Democrats are trying to win the election. After the election, we can't let them steal it. September 23rd, 2020. Interesting. We can't let the Democrats steal the election. September 25th, 2020. Interesting. Audit the vote. Because obviously you have to audit if it stole the election, right? We tried to warn you. The Democrats knew what they were doing, and they ignored us. November 10th, 2020. This is about the Democrats wanting chaos and confusion. They know that on Election Day, President Trump was going to win, and they want to keep counting. Because, they want to steal the election. On and on. I mean, look, there's more. There's numerous interviews. One, for example, is the Fox News interview with Maria Bartiromo, in which Jordan says, it's important we get to the bottom of exactly what happened in Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Georgia, and all these key swing states, addressing Rudy Giuliani and Sidney Powell's investigation into Dominion voting and Smartmatic software, whom, as we've talked about before, conspiracy theorists claim were used to steal the election for Joe Biden. And that were somehow designed by, what is it, the ghost of Hugo Chavez to steal the elections in Venezuela. And says that should be allowed to play out. And asks key questions, like why on election night, it seemed like every state that kept counting, President Trump won. But all the states that halted counting for a while, he wound up losing. Why don't Joe Biden and the Democrats want to find out? No, I think it's pretty obvious what he's saying, the subtext of it. He's saying the election was stolen. But I never said the election was stolen. Oh, no. No. And now for some odd reason, Jim Jordan has decided that he just doesn't want to talk to the committee. Very strange. Very strange indeed. Weird. No, I think we know what's going on here. Jim Jordan's a liar. Jim Jordan is projecting onto other people what he himself had been trying to do, which was, along with other Republicans, to steal an election for Donald Trump. All right, let's go to Alex Jones. Conspiracy theorist Alex Jones loves to tell you how broke he is. I'm so broke. I need your help. I need your help to float the channel. The deep state, they're trying to shut it down. And I'm going to need your help. You're going to need to go over to the InfoWars store, and you're going to have to buy a lot of prepper buckets because the Civil War is coming. That's what's going to happen here. And that's not an exaggeration. It's exactly what he's doing. And it turns out that because of that, he has done incredibly well for himself. So let me give you some numbers. So now, the InfoWars store, from September 2015 to the end of 2018, apparently made a total of $165 million in sales. That is according to court filings related to a Sandy Hook lawsuit, one of the ones that Alex Jones had lost. So now the records were obtained by HuffPost. So anyway, from what you can see from the records, $165 million over 3 years, that's a lot of money. He's doing very, very well. But of course, if you watch InfoWars, which I feel sorry for you, really. I mean, if you're watching it non-ironically, you might think that they are hanging on by a thread. Oh, we're barely on. We're so broke. In fact, here's what he said in just a recent segment on Thursday. Quote, "As much begging as I do, we can barely pay the bills. I'm not going to stop growth and let them push us backwards. I need your help, Frank. I need your help. Yeah, come on, Frank. What are you doing, Frank? Give me the money, Frank. Buy me stuff. Buy it, Frank. Buy it, Frank, before the deep state stops you from buying it. Before the frogs get so gay that they shoot rainbows at you and somehow make you gay. I don't know. Oh, here's what he also said during a 2018 broadcast. The enemy wants to cut off our funding to destroy us. If you don't fund us, we'll be shut down. Shut down by who? Nobody shut down your broadcast. If somebody was gonna, excuse me, wow. If somebody's gonna shut down your broadcast, they would have done so already. Now, Alex Jones has been deplatformed, but he still has a show. He just hosts it on his website, which people can go to. Now, that has reduced some of his reach, of course, because the algorithms are no longer pointing people towards Alex Jones content, but it still exists, and he's still making money. And so, again, that same year, InfoWars made more than $56 million in sales. Now, can you imagine? Can you imagine? Now, look, I'm a lefty show, okay? You know how much I made off sales? Last year, I made $102 off shirts. And you know what? I was fucking thrilled. Like, yes! I made $100 off merch. Oh, it's great. From all the memberships combined, I get like $1,000. Again, that's Patreon, that's channel memberships, that's subs on YouTube and Twitch. I am thankful for every single one of them, by the way. But you got Alex Jones over here. They've been making $56 million in a year. Holy shit. The amount of money in right-wing media is just insane. Enormous. And understand, like, this is not like a boo-hoo, I'm poor, right? Look, if I didn't want to be poor, I wouldn't be lefty. Okay? I'd be a right-winger. I'd be doing anti-vax content right now if I wanted to be rich, okay? Because that's like super hot. No, I don't do that. I don't care about being rich. But again, the reason I point that out is that it's not a jealousy thing. Okay? The point that the point that I'm trying to make is that this is not an even playing field between right and left content. Moneyed interests pour so many resources into right-wing media. They really, really do. And algorithms, of course. One of the reasons that Alex Jones is so big is because the algorithms, back when he was on YouTube and Facebook, would constantly point people towards Alex Jones content. So that's what would happen. And of course, that was fantastic in growing a gigantic user base. Then they go and they change, as a result of Alex Jones, they change algorithms to now favor CNN, MSNBC, and ironically Fox News, which is one of the biggest purveyors of disinformation, in media, whether it be cable news or online. And so there's not as much money on the left as there is in right-wing media. And I'm saying that as realizing that, of course, yes, there are people on the left that do make decent amounts of money. Are they making $65 million in a year? No, I doubt it. I doubt very much that you have actual lefty channels that are making that much money off sales and off anything else. And again, the moneyed interests are interested in the right wing for certain reasons. Basically propaganda. Propaganda, again, you have this propaganda that benefits industry. Deregulation. They give tax cuts to the rich. They destroy consumer protections. That's what they do. Now, they also, by the way, take the people who police corporations like Big Pharma off the street. Get rid of federal regulators. Or just buy lobbyists to buy them out. These right-wing interests have a lot of cash. And so that's where the money is. It's in media, right-wing media. And it's not because they're right. It's not because they have the facts. No, they're not out there fighting for the people. Dave Rubin is not fighting for the people. Dave Rubin was a progressive until he got Coke money. Progressive, right? He was always terrible on Israel, for example. Horrible, horrible, horrible. Tim Pool, by the way, figured it out pretty early. Go to the right. Just go right. And guess what? Tim Pool now has his own indoor skate park. But he has no credibility. And so Candace Owens also found out that it was much more lucrative to be a black conservative and to sell stuff that literally turns her fans blue. Colloidal silver. Jim Baker, for a long time, has been selling his Prepper food buckets. Alex Jones also sells dubious supplements and end times prep gear. In fact, some of the highest selling products on the InfoWars store include something called Brain Force Ultra. Brain Force Ultra. You need to get the Brain Force Ultra because it's a brain force. Makes your brain very, very big. Alpha male brain. It means your brain can beat up your anybody else's brain. That's what happens. When your brain, and it also fights against the gay frogs and the deep state. You go into a spiritual battlefield. That's what happens. You get into the spiritual battlefield, and your brain will suplex the deep state. That's what happens. Buy Brain Force Ultra. Ridiculous, right? It contains green tea leaves and costs $37. There's also Winter Sun Plus Vitamin D. And another supplement called Brain Force Plus. Not Brain Force Ultra, but Brain Force Plus. Not to be confused with Brain Force Ultra. And so, I mean, that's the kind of stuff that he's selling. And people are buying it. Lots of people are buying it. These ridiculous supplements, which, by the way, like, a lot of them are not FDA approved. I thought they cared about this stuff. I thought conservatives were like, oh, no, we're not going to take anything that's not approved. Because I care about what I put in my body. That's why I won't get a vaccine. Oh, Brain Force Ultra. Oh, yeah, put it in me. Oh, yeah. We'll take it. Delicious. I can feel my brain swelling already. That might not be a good thing. Just saying. Might not be a good thing. But now, here's the thing, right? The documents showed how lying about Sandy Hook, well, that actually helped him quite a bit. It shows that when he pushed the Sandy Hook lie, he made tons and tons of money. In fact, that was a gigantic driver of a lot of these sales. In fact, the months of September and October of 2015 had only seen about a handful of orders a day. But just 1 year later, the InfoWars store was making an average of about $110,000 a day. And on some of Jones' most profitable days were the ones where he pushed the Sandy Hook's lies. Or Sandy Hook lies, sorry. Where he called Sandy Hook a hoax. And said, oh, yeah, those kids are they're not prophet, sorry, but they're crisis actors. That's what's going on here. Crisis actors. It's fake. Without any, of course, sort of evidence, which ended up hurting people. But there's more. For instance, on November 18th, 2016, Jones aired a segment titled, Alex Jones' Final Statement on Sandy Hook. Now, you're not going to be surprised that that is not his final statement. In which he said, he's watched a lot of soap operas, and I've seen actors before, and I know when I'm watching a movie and when I'm watching something real. On that day, the InfoWars store made over $100,000. 5 months later, on April 22nd, 2017, Jones published a new video on InfoWars titled Sandy Hook Vampires Exposed. The store then made $90,000 in that day. Well, now we know why it's not his final statement and why he kept pushing and pushing the hoax, even though, of course, the videos that he was putting out were putting actual victims in danger. 57-year-old Lucy Richards, that same month, was sentenced to 5 months in prison for threatening Leonard Posner, who lost his 6-year-old son, Noah, in Sandy Hook shooting. In a June 2017 segment for NBC's Sunday Night with Megyn Kelly, which, again, was a freaking terrible idea, why hire Megyn Kelly? I have no idea. But Neil Heslin, who was another Sandy Hook parent, described holding his 6-year-old son's body. I lost my son, I buried my son, I held my son with a bullet hole through his head. Heslin told Kelly in the segment about the harassment he has faced from conspiracy theorists. The following month, on July 20th, Jones questioned whether Heslin did indeed hold his dead son in a segment casting doubt on the shooting. Quite frankly, the father needs to clarify. NBC needs to clarify because the coroner said none of the parents were allowed to touch the kids or see the kids, maybe meeting at the school. I'm sure later, maybe the parents saw their children. I can't do that voice forever. The InfoWars store on that day sold more than 4,600 products, earning more than $180,000. And there's more. There is more. Of the more than 3 years of data reviewed by HuffPost, InfoWars' most profitable days happened around the 2016 presidential election. That's actually not a surprise. The day of the election, November 8th, the InfoWars store more than doubled its sales from the previous day, making a total of over $660,000. The next day after Trump won, more than 8,700 orders were placed on the InfoWars website, totaling nearly $850,000 in sales. Good for him. I mean, that was a day of elation for the right wing in 2016. And so now, forward to 2020, Jones was a leading proponent of course, the big lie that the 2020 presidential election was rigged, which of course led to the January 6th Capitol riot. Jones, who is now being subpoenaed by a House committee over his role in that attack, had urged his followers just days before the riot to purchase items from the InfoWars store to, in his words, help fund the Second American Revolution worldwide. So he ain't broke. He ain't broke at all. And I mean, look, these are some of the worst people in the world. And again, Alex Jones and other conspiracy theorists who make money off lying, I mean, they're, what else can I say? They're terrible people. They put out outrageous lies. I mean, complete and utter falsehoods, dangerous conspiracy theories, which lead to people being hurt, whether by taking bullshit supplements or cures, not getting vaccinated for COVID and making sure that their viewers don't, or by basically sicking his followers on people who don't agree with them. But they don't care. They don't care because you know why? Because whipping up their audience makes some money. And they are willing to pay, these people, the audience, the people who watch him, are willing to pay to hear their own version of insane reality. Look, again, there's so much grifting on the right wing. And maybe it's because, I don't know, they're just super easy to trick. I don't know what it is. I mean, but you have people that have money on the right that are willing to give it to Donald Trump, for one, which already is incredibly stupid. And then, of course, to people like Alex Jones, to hear these insane conspiracy theories, like January 6th, where the people who, by the way, Capitol rioters, they weren't poor people. They weren't members of the working class. They weren't out there like, oh my God, I don't have stimulus checks or food or places to stay, and that's why I'm out here rioting. No, no, no. They were out there because I want my country back. They bought into conspiracy theories and hate brown people. And that's essentially it. They had money and they were willing to give it to anybody who made them feel good about having awful, racist views. And where there are people, of course, willing to give to feel good about themselves, that there are always those who are willing to say whatever those people want to hear in order to separate them from their cash. Here is probably one of the clearest examples of how online conspiracy theories and capitalism, yes, capitalism, absolutely go hand in hand. Okay. Look, I gotta go. We're gonna save the anti-evolution story for tomorrow, for the craziness in Texas, as usual. To that I say, thank you for watching. Please like and share the stream if you haven't already. Very important that you do so. And yes, if you want to, you know, toss a coin here and there, if you're willing and able to, I do appreciate it. Thank you. For those of you who don't or who can't, totally fine. This is as long as you enjoy the content. Appreciate it. All right. Again, thank you. Like and share the stream. Like and share the videos. Very important that you do so. Let's see. I did get a couple of super chats today, so I want to share that. Netarare will be forever synonymous with Ted Cruz. I'm not sure what that is, but one thing that will always be synonymous with Ted Cruz is him liking a porn tweet. So that was always fun. Dango Bangle asks, remember the Michigan governor kidnapping plot? I do. I literally live here. So, yes, I do remember that. That was pretty much a dress rehearsal, a dry run for January 6th. And apparently they didn't learn anything, but that's a good thing. Very good thing. And then that they didn't learn anything, to be clear. Gabby Mathis, thank you for the very kind $5. Appreciate that as well. Paige Lars, thank you for subbing for a month of Tier 1. Appreciate that. Thank you so much. AOC tested positive for COVID. Well, she was in Florida. We all kind of saw that one coming. But yeah, here's the thing. So she's vaccinated and encourages everyone to get vaccinated. And then she'll take a few days off, recover, and she'll be back after quarantine. So, yeah, hopefully she and everybody else who gets COVID recover. So, Iris Jones, thank you so much. Really, really appreciate that. The very kind super chat. Much, much appreciated. All right. So, let's figure out who to raid on Twitch. I need to get more Twitch friends. That is for sure. We haven't done a left flank vet raid in a while, so we'll do that. Oh, Lella Miller points out that AOC is not hospitalized. Yeah, mild symptoms, recovering at home in quarantine. Look, we have to before we go realize that a lot of people are going to get COVID. When you have Omicron, that is incredibly contagious. But the difference, of course, getting vaccinated. Vaccine doesn't mean like complete and shield that, the shield that is impenetrable. It just means that your body will be able to fight it much more effectively than if you're not vaccinated. And so you're able to fight it. You don't end up at the hospital. You won't die. That's the whole point. Get vaccinated. All due to her boyfriend's pale hairy toast. Tell me in defeat without telling me you're in defeat. That's what I say to those people. Not that there's anything wrong with that, by the way. Not that there's anything wrong with that. All right. Did I actually hit the raid button? I don't know. All right. Anyway, thank you all. Love you. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.
Dumps. Big, massive dumps.
Please clap.
You're kicking me out the door. You're kicking me out the door.